So what a presentation to follow up, right? What the folks at APL and Jason's team are doing is incredible, and a lot of what we're going to talk about today is going to be around how do we continue to protect and how do we continue investing in things like the Hubble Space Telescope, James Webb Space Telescope, and all of the great science and research that is going on in the United States, a lot of which is happening right in our home state, some of us, of Maryland. So my name is Jules Clayton. Like Vicky said, I lead Insight Global Space Business, and I'm also a founding board member of the Maryland Aerospace Alliance. And this alliance was founded 2 years ago to advocate for and to protect state and local and federal investment in the aerospace economy in Maryland. So this is something that a lot of people are involved in other organizations like AUSA or even AIAA. But we are at a critical inflection point in Maryland where we must fight to protect and invest in all of the great science work that folks are doing at APL, at NASA's Goddard Space Flight Center, and elsewhere. I started at Goddard over 10 years ago, so it's funny, I worked on James Webb for many years, and it's just so great to see the results of the science and engineering that went on for that program. So what we're going to do today is we're going to talk a little bit about what goes on in Maryland as an aerospace state. We're going to talk about the institutions at the federal and local level that exist there. We'll cover some of the stats that most folks don't know about Maryland, about how many people are involved in the industry, what the annual revenue generated in the tax base for Maryland is. And then we'll talk about how to do business there. If you work for a company or you're interested in living in Maryland and working in Maryland or in finding ways to move your business there, we'll discuss what the outlook for Maryland looks like in the civil, commercial, and defense spaces. All right, great. So I always like to start out with framing this conversation with the great question of how does this affect me? How does this affect you all? How many of you every morning, maybe even this morning on your walk over to the Caesars Forum, went on your weather app on your phone and checked to see what the forecast was going to be, right? Something as simple as that. He's like, no way, I never checked the forecast. All of the weather data that the meteorologists and Apple Weather and AccuWeather use to provide you all with weather forecasts and data comes from Maryland. NOAA, the National Oceanic and Atmospheric Administration that manages the National Weather Service, is headquartered in Silver Spring, just outside of Washington, D.C., and they use data from satellites that are built and launched and supported by Goddard Space Flight Center right there in Maryland. So every single one of the weather forecasts, those cool images you see of hurricanes coming in and coming towards the east coast of the country, all of that is built, managed, and flying right now in Maryland. Maybe even something like using GPS to get to this presentation today, to come to the presentation today, or even to go follow and stalk your Uber Eats driver like I do so many times. That GPS data, while the Space Force owns and operates the GPS constellation, relies on position, navigation, and timing data that is held and stored in Maryland. All of that data for PNT is supported by the science and research that's going on at NASA's Goddard Space Flight Center in Greenbelt. Some of you may be familiar with the COSPAS-SARSAT emergency response network of satellites, but since about the last 15 or 20 years, 50,000 lives have been saved by activating emergency response beacons for hikers, for folks that are out on the water, for people that are in remote areas. That COSPAS-SARSAT system is run by NOAA and is built off of data that's running at Goddard Space Flight Center in our data center there locally. So it's just important that we frame this conversation. You might not think, well, I might live in California, or maybe I live in Colorado or somewhere else. Maryland Aerospace affects all of us every single day in ways that we might not be aware of. So let's look at some key facts and figures. What is going on in Maryland? Why is Maryland the aerospace state? So right now today, there are over almost 150,000 jobs in aerospace engineering across the state of Maryland. And that's everything from mechanical and electrical engineering. That's our teams that are building and fabricating spacecraft and spacecraft hardware across the state. That's the commercial aviation industry. We've got BWI, Baltimore Washington Thurgood Airport, that's just up near Baltimore. And we've got multiple aircraft manufacturers that call Maryland their home. That's 150,000. That number is number one in the country for per capita concentration of aerospace engineers in the entire US. That shocks me, and that might shock a lot of you. If you were to raise your hand, and most people would say California, most people would say Colorado, all big aerospace states, but per capita, there are more aerospace engineers and employees in Maryland than in any state in the country, right? Just last year, we took this number from 2024. There are about 9,600 businesses in the aerospace industry today in Maryland, and that generates about $39 billion in revenue by aerospace and defense operations. That's, again, civil space, NASA, NOAA. That is commercial space, your rocket labs, your commercial space companies, and that's the defense-based industry. We'll go over some of those in a second. But these numbers are shocking for most people. The average salary in Maryland for an aerospace engineer is about $127,000 annually, and the total tax base, the salary tax base generated for Maryland by that $39 billion in revenue is about $16 billion. So there is a massive historical hub for aerospace that has existed in Maryland, both for employees and for employers looking to tap into that group of talent. And our governor, Wes Moore, just in 2024, we passed a law creating the Maryland Aerospace and Technology Commission. And that commission is to focus Maryland on 3 core industries. It's what the governor says are the next great industries in Maryland. Number 1, aerospace engineering. Number 2 is pharma, and number 3 is advanced computing and AI. But aerospace is one of the 3 lighthouse industries in the state. So state funds, state appropriations are going to aerospace. I love this map because it paints this picture. Many of you are probably like, Maryland, maybe I've never even been there before. Where is Maryland? What does it look like? And what companies and businesses exist in Maryland today? This is probably hard to see from you guys out there, but I just want to highlight a few of these companies and a few of these industries for you today. So let's start at the federal level. NASA's Goddard Space Flight Center, you can see there right in the middle in Greenbelt, Maryland. That's the hub and the largest group of earth science engineers and scientists in the world, bar none, right? That's right there in Prince George's County. Down here in St. Mary's County and Calvert counties out here on the coast, we've got Naval Air Station Pax River. That is the Navy's hub for test pilot and test pilot training for their F-18 program. So it's not the Blue Angels, it's not Tom Cruise and Maverick, it is the test training school for the F-18 program. And you can see around the area, we've got our team at Johns Hopkins at APL, right up there outside of Baltimore. We've got so much NOAA infrastructure here. Again, headquarters in Silver Spring, Maryland, and we've got the NOAA Satellite Operations Facility in Suitland. So all of those weather satellites I talked about that are tracking hurricanes, that are providing you with your weather forecast every morning, that's right there in southern Maryland. And because of this, we have a huge collection of federal contractors that support those government installations. I'm not going to go through all the names on here. Probably all of these companies are here today and are a large part of the government contracting landscape here. Northrop Grumman, Lockheed Martin, all of the contractors that support Goddard Space Flight Center, ERT, Avatar, the Hammers Company, KBR, who's just down the hallway here. This infrastructure, this nest of opportunity, both economically and again, as an employee, is one of the greatest nests of aerospace companies in the country. So the amount of work that's going on here, we talked about aviation, but there's other industries. We've got an advanced robotics industry just outside of Greenbelt here in Prince George's County. We're doing science and research that has never been done before. Jason talked about the Habitable Worlds Observatory, right? The culmination of what is out there, and can we find planets that are similar to Earth that create an environment where maybe life can exist? Well, guess where the chief research and the chief science for Habitable Worlds is hopefully going to end up? Goddard Space Flight Center. The same organization that built the Hubble Space Telescope and still runs it today out of the Hubble Operating Center in Greenbelt. The same team that built James Webb. This map of companies all contribute to us being able to do the world's best science, research, and engagement. So I just think being able to put this all into perspective is really important because, again, most folks don't realize the network and nest of economic opportunity there. We haven't even talked about technically this is in Virginia, don't tell any Virginia people this. Wallops Flight Facility is out on a remote barrier island in Virginia. It's right on the Maryland border, and a significant portion of the team that works and lives and supports Wallops lives in Maryland, just across the border. So we have a huge network of launch companies that are currently investing in, Rocket Lab is one of them, many others, building out facilities at Wallops to access orbital, suborbital, and low Earth orbit launch opportunities. So again, the state is full of opportunity here. So where are we going? Where are we now? And why is advocating for Maryland so important? You probably recognize this on the previous slide, but almost 100% of the companies and the offices that I just showed you are federally funded. They're federally funded. Goddard is NASA, federal. NOAA, the same thing, federal. Pax River, the DoD and the Navy, all federally funded. And we're all aware of everything that's going on at the federal level in legislation and in the budgeting and appropriations that have gone on in the last 2 years. We can't rely on federal funding anymore as a state and as an economy to continue. Where our business is going is commercial. And if you look around here, I think this is a great example of that. There are more startup space companies, there's more commercial and private sector investment in space than we've ever seen. And that's what we have to do in Maryland, and that's what we have to do in our other states to continue to push and protect this network of aerospace engineering talent and aerospace engineering impact. I want to highlight our friends at Rocket Lab because there's a really, really good example of what we just went through in Maryland to bring commercial investment into our state. Outside of Baltimore, Maryland, on the eastern side of Baltimore is a little town called Middle River. And in Middle River, Lockheed Martin has for over 100 years built and developed weapons for World War II era, Vietnam era warships. They built a vertical launch tube that was used to launch different kinds of rockets and missiles at enemy ships. That facility shut down in 2013-ish and was really left there kind of abandoned, 113,000 square feet of manufacturing and industrial space just sitting there, right? So obviously the Maryland Aerospace Alliance, our friends at the Maryland Department of Commerce go to work saying, hey, if you guys want to be near the government, if you guys want to have a great manufacturing space, if you want a good state to do business in, come to Maryland and come see this facility. Well, it didn't take long. In 2023, Rocket Lab came in and they realized the importance of space to develop composites for their next generation vehicle, which is called Neutron, which is going to be completed at the Middle River facility. So they signed that agreement in 2023. The facility was converted. There's millions and millions of dollars in investment for making that a previous rocket launching development facility to a spacecraft development facility. And that facility now employs over 250 people in a remote area of Maryland outside of Baltimore. That is the kind of commercial sector investment we need. All of our states need this, and Maryland is pushing to get as much of that into our state as possible. We cannot rely on the federal government and federal funding anymore. We must look to commercial space, private equity and commercial space companies to build and develop their networks in our states so that we can continue to employ the engineers that live in our state, so that we can continue to see the success that Maryland is going to have and continue to have. So I'll close with this. I want an opportunity to connect for you. If you're interested in learning more about the facilities, about the engineering talent, about the kind of business environment that exists in Maryland, I recommend you check out our website. There's a QR code for it here, the Maryland Aerospace Alliance. Again, we are your conduit to talking to state and local government. We are your conduit to talk to the federal government, our senators in the House and Congress, about potentially bringing your business or coming and moving to Maryland. If you want to join the industry, we've got resources for folks looking to relocate to the area that are interested in supporting that. Obviously, none of this could be done without the Maryland Department of Commerce, so I want to make sure I link their website here too. They will help discuss tax opportunities for you. They'll help discuss the financial ramifications and implications of moving to Maryland. and they'll help you navigate that conversation in partnership with the Maryland Aerospace Alliance. So in closing, Maryland is an aerospace state. In fact, we are the #1 per capita grouping of aerospace engineers in the country. And it's now more important than ever that we protect that we talk to our state and local and federal representatives of the importance of Johns Hopkins, the importance of what James Webb Space Telescope is doing, the importance of things like weather, position, navigation, and timing, and some of these systems that we might not even think about exist in Maryland. And now is the time to invest in the state and to join us.